Hey everybody, welcome back. Thanks for joining your virtual drinking buddy. Tonight, I'm on the road at Lucky Bucket Brewing Company. Established in 2008, Lucky Bucket Brewing Company has been making quality beer for over a decade. Along with Cut Spike Distillery, Lucky Bucket can be found in La Vista, Nebraska, about a 20-minute drive from downtown Omaha. Pretend like I've done this before.
Right.
Okay. So you were saying you wanted to get started just as a distillery initially?
Yeah. At first we wanted to just distill. That's what our president's background is. And, it was an ethanol distilling. Unfortunately, when we first got started, it was actually illegal in the state of Nebraska to distill.
Oh, okay.
So that makes it a little difficult.
A little bit, yeah.
So while they were kind of working on that, they went to unicameral to try to get that overturned. They started brewing beer in the meantime. Actually, the main founders of that had met up at Upstream Brewing, and so they had that background, put it into the brewery, and then in the meantime, it finally became able to distill. So
Good deal.
yeah, it was a lot of left over from Prohibition. Nobody really cared, but nobody had bothered to overturn it. So a bit of a lengthy legal process, but
I see. Yeah, getting red tape anyway.
right, exactly. And there's still a couple of things yet. One is this fence here. Actually, we have to have a barrier in between the distillery and the brewery because it's technically illegal to have both underneath the same roof.
Oh wow!
But we got a fence instead.
Good deal. So with the beer, what was the original lineup? Do you happen to know?
Well, I know the very first thing was a pre-prohibition style lager. That was really the first one that got our name out there and really started taking off. Which is, it's a really versatile beer. It's got a good malt backbone, pretty classic style. Really, it was kind of when they set out to make it, they wanted a nice drinkable lager that used pre-prohibition style ingredients before the macro beers came in and kind of used rice filler ingredients.
I see.
They wanted a nice, solid, drinkable beer that's good year-round and really took off from there. So that was the initial one. I know they made Certified Evil pretty closely after that, which has gone over a couple recipe changes over the years, but it's currently an Imperial Oatmeal Stout. Originally it was an Imperial Stout. I know they had a wheat beer initially and an IPA. The wheat beer was called Pudang, and well, before that it was... Man, I forget. I'm sorry. It had a couple name changes, and then the IPA was Stupefy. That's what it was called.
Okay. I think I've heard of that one. I think actually the pre-prohibition, or maybe so just like the standard lager that you guys made.
Yeah. Yep.
It was one of those two. It's the first one that I had. I think I actually had it at Catfish Lake. I think I had it on draw there. And so I've been wanting to get out here for a long time. I just don't get out much. I'm kind of a homebody, so. All right, so. Like, how many beers can you guys have on tap at any given time?
On tap, I believe we have room for, I want to say it's 18, something like that. And then we also have a nitro tap as well. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so we got a good variety at any point, really.
Sounds like it. And I've noticed that you guys have a pretty good rotation of seasonals and I don't know if you want to call them occasionals.
I think the technical word is small batch.
Okay.
So, got a few different things we work on each time. And, because we make a ton of lager or the seasonal each time, you know what I mean? It gives it a chance for the brewers to get creative, make something fun too, which is fun for the consumer. So it works out all around.
Yeah, and I noticed that you just recently put out a blueberry.
Yeah, it's called Beluba. It was something that was actually in retirement for a few years. Initially, we only made it, our tasting room manager, Sam, was getting married. And she was like, well, it'd be really cool if you guys made a special beer just for my wedding, and we put on tap there. And her husband's nickname for her is Beluba.
Okay.
And they're like, Luba, blueberry, I like blueberries, let's make it happen. And then, so they made, I want to say maybe just like 10 barrels of it, like really limited stuff. We drank all of it that night, except for about 2 kegs of it that we put on tap up here. And so it kind of became a cult favorite. Went into retirement a little bit. We just brought it back just a couple weeks ago.
Nice.
And it's really good.
It sounds really good. What are you drinking right now?
This is Belly Flop.
I've seen a lot of that on Twitter.
Yes, it's our summer seasonal. It's a strawberry blonde ale, really popular one. So of course talk about it a lot on Twitter too. Just really good light summer sipper. Still got that good fruit sweetness to it. So
Awesome. Now, what are some of the other fan favorites?
good question. Certified Evil, of course, like I said, we've been making that a really long time. And it's still pretty popular. It's, kind of slows down a bit in the summer, maybe a little bit, but it's still a good one. Trying to think. I mean, are you looking for like bottled ones or like more small batch?
I guess just whatever sells quick, whatever people really talk up on social media, and
Okay.
whatever you're noticing the trends on.
Okay.
But I know a couple of people that have told me that they really like the Certified Evil, and that one's kind of dangerous. You don't taste the alcohol, you don't feel the alcohol in it.
Right.
I had one, and by the time I finished it, it's like, hello there.
Yeah, it's like a 9-1, but you're exactly right. It doesn't drink like it. So we have a variant of Certified Evil. It's called Wicked Joe. We made a batch of our whiskey, then barrel aged the Certified Evil, and then rested it on coffee and vanilla beans,
Oh wow.
which made a lot of, not necessarily complex flavor, but like as it warms up, you'll pick up maybe more of the coffee, and then a little bit warmer, you'll get vanilla. The malt, of course, is pretty strong in there too. That one's really good. Another kind of dangerous one that'll sneak up on you.
Oh, sure.
Because it's got some of that whiskey flavor to it too. That one's real popular when we have it. We make that pretty limited. Of course, barrel availability plays a part in that. We have a mango habanero beer. That is a Tropic Wonder. Yeah, you did do a review on
I love
that.
that one. Yeah, I was surprised. I really wasn't sure that I'd like it, and I had the first couple of drinks, and just, wow, the flavor's really good. The burn is not intense, which I
Right.
really like.
Right, exactly. It doesn't blow your palate out. It's pretty well balanced. Kind of that sweet, then heat.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll probably be picking some of that up before I get home. Alright, let's see. Oh yeah, I noticed that you guys have made some beers for DJ Stug. How'd that go?
I'm not sure the exact details, who approached who or anything like that. I know DJ was celebrating their 25th anniversary. They wanted some special stuff going on, so they wanted us to brew some exclusives for them. One I know is called like Tanya's Black Hearted Ale, which is named after one of their employees, and that one's pretty nice. There is an orange ale that we sent there. I'm forgetting the exact specifics of each of the beers, but yeah, that's the main story of how it came to be. Is they approached us on kind of some exclusive stuff for that. So.
And for any of you out of towners, any of you non-Omaha area people, DJ Stugout is it's like a sports bar and keno parlor, and they have several locations around the Omaha area. So if you're in town for like the College World Series, the Olympic swim trials, it'd be another place you can check it out, and you can find some of the fine Lucky Bucket brews there too. Have you guys ever collaborated with any other breweries?
We've done some things in the past. For instance, Omaha Beer Week. This is years ago. We did a collaboration beer with Infusion a while back.
Okay.
It was called Blaze On. It was a black saison. So we did that. Done some. It's been years since we've done one. At least 5-6 years ago. So it's the most recent one that I can remember. Honestly, our guys stay really busy, kind of making our own stuff. So
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
haven't branched out in a while.
And how big is your distribution? Like, how far away would I be able to find a Lucky Bucket there?
Kind of depends. So we're in 7 states right now.
wow.
Nebraska, Iowa, North and South Dakota, Kansas, Oklahoma, Tennessee. So 7 states. So Tennessee's probably the farthest one there, right?
Yeah, it's a pretty good footprint on the country so far.
Yeah, I mean, like kind of mostly that kind of Midwest type stuff. Tennessee's the outlier there, but otherwise, yeah.
And do you guys contribute to any like subscription clubs or delivery clubs?
Not to my knowledge. No.
Okay. And I was going to ask you about festivals. You had mentioned on Beer Week. Are there any other beer festivals you guys get a part of, or any festivals for that?
Yeah, we'd like to stay represented at the local ones for sure. You know, we've done like Brew at the Zoo,
Oh, okay.
which is a good time. Some of the other local ones too. It's tough because honestly, there are only, like including front end staff at the bar and things like that, there are only about a dozen of us that work here. And so to go to a festival, one of us has got to travel to it, which pulls somebody off production and things like that. So it does make it a challenge to be represented at every single one of them.
Sure.
But we try and do a bunch of them. Like we've done Extreme at Beer Corner USA. We've done the one at Exarban. I forget its name. It might even just be like a beer festival. So we like to be represented locally when we can.
Okay.
But it does make it a challenge to travel too much.
It sounds like it. That's a tight, tight crew to work with. To
It's
get all
fun,
of this
though.
done.
Yeah, the guys work super, like, incredibly hard, and they're really good at what they do. They've got it down to golden art and the science, but it's also kind of makes it a fun place to work at. You know what I mean? I'll come in the President, I'll be working the bottling line. You know what I mean? It's cool. It's everybody works together and works well together, and it just makes it kind of, I don't know, like a fun, close-knit group.
That's awesome. And then I've noticed on Twitter you guys announce food trucks,
Yeah.
like every couple of weeks.
We try to do it each Friday.
Okay.
And we try and do like a rotation between a few different ones, which is fun, you know. Local beer, local food, it just works really well together. And of course, we just opened up the patio this spring. Actually, we technically opened it up in the fall, like right before the weather hit. But it makes it nice, you know, you got food truck out there. So,
Oh, for sure. What are some of the food trucks you guys have had?
good variety of different ones. Most recently, we've had the Pasta Tivoli Delicious food truck. They do pasta, as the name would imply. Sauce Bosses, which does really good barbecue. If you're ever around on a Sauce Boss week, the kitchen sink burrito is fantastic. Let's see here. Upcoming, we've got the Modern Waffle, which is like a brunch food truck, which is really cool. It's a good variety, honestly, of a bunch of different ones.
Sounds like it.
And a bunch of different foods, which gives you a chance to kind of explore the beer menu and the cocktail menu too. Find good things that would pair up. So
Absolutely.
it works out really nicely.
And as far as pairings go, do you guys ever hold pairing events?
We have in the past. Obviously, with COVID, have been limited with some of the different events, but in the past, pre-COVID, we did a beer and cookies event, which was cool. It was actually an author who wrote a book about beer and cookies that pair well together. Ginger snaps and IPAs are surprisingly like really good together. Never would have guessed it, but it hits just right. I don't know how to exactly. They're both kind of sharp kind of flavors to it. They work really well. So there's a kind of a random one. We've done that. We've done different. Like there's been a couple local restaurants we've done some things at in the past. Like I said, that's a while ago just due to COVID, but we'd be open to that in the future too.
Awesome. All right, I think I just have one more.
Sure.
I guess this would kind of pertain to like any festivals or anything, but if you guys are planning on doing anything this summer, where could people find you?
Well, I mean, the best place, of course, right here in the tasting room. That's where we're going to release stuff first, of course. So if you want to like early exclusives, no super concrete plans right now. Of course, guidelines are all changing really quickly on us.
Yeah, the COVID is really
It's really
damper on things.
made it tough to plan anything, you know. But I know we would like to get. We do host events here each year. Prior to last year, we threw an Oktoberfest every year. We have a big old tent out back, and we had different games and things like that, and of course, plenty of beer.
That's always important.
So that's one. Typically, we do like a big barbecue type thing here. Might be early to be able to do that. I would guess that's probably more going to be next year.
Okay.
We've also done like a Mardi Gras here before too. So
Oh, fun.
yeah, a few different things. I don't have any like concrete details just yet about anything that we're planning, just because Everything changes week by week.
Yeah. Well, I suppose anybody watching this can always just follow them on social media and keep an eye out for events if you're looking for them.
Definitely.
That's really all I have for the Q&A section. So.
So mash tun, right over here. Of course, we're going to put your grains in there, boil them up, get that work going. Right next to that, this next vessel down the line with a big pipe leading into it, that is the brew kettle. Inside of that is where you're going to add your hops, of course, but also some other ingredients, citrus peel, cocoa nibs, nutmeg, cinnamon, you know, kind of play Willy Wonka a little bit, get some flavors going on in there. And then you will transfer that over to our fermenters. These are 100 barrel fermenters. It's about 3,100 gallons worth of beer in each one of those.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. You drink 2 6-packs a week. You started at age 21, you would polish that off at age 82.
Holy crap.
Yeah. So
That's a lot of beer.
about a lifetime's worth of beer in each one of those tanks, if you want to think of it that way.
Looks like we got several of them.
Yes, 5 of these full-size fermenters. And then behind us as well, these are 50 barrels over here. And then there's an 80 barrel on the corner. And there's a couple other 50 barrel fermenters that we got as well. That's these 2 tall ones right here. That's where you can do some hopping, of course, as well. Different stages of the brewing process will give you different kind of flavor notes with those hops. But this is also where we're going to add our fruit ingredients. If you introduce that fruit, like your purees and things like that, too early, the yeast will just eat it out of the beer, of course. It's very sweet, very sugary, and that's what the yeast is going to look to eat. So that's where, for instance, that's where the strawberry puree is going to go in for play flop. But kind of finishing up the flavors, then you're going to take the beer and move it to the bright tank. It's a really tall one here in the middle with our logo on it. That's where we're going to, of course, carbonate. Pump that full of CO2, get it nice and foamed and ready to go. We can either keg off the side of it, and we have like, I think it's like an 8-head kegger, and work through that as quick as you can, or we will hook it up to the bottling line. Bottling line actually runs throughout the room here. Start down here, you're going to load your bottles up onto this kind of table. Notice it's kind of circular, so there's usually one guy just loading them up as quick as it goes. It'll lead over here to these orange belts. You'll notice these labels are kind of flowing into here. Those belts are going to get the bottles labeled. They'll come down the line. Actually, nice. We got some loaded, so it's a little easier to visualize. They'll start to flip upside down. They don't normally have the caps on there. That's just what we put as an example, just so you can kind of see it easier. But it'll flip upside down. Underneath here, it gets sanitized, rinsed, and drained. They'll start to flip back up, come around the corner, and then we'll get to our filling station. It's actually easier to see on the other side. We'll slide over there quick. Filling station. Notice the bottles will kind of slide over here. They're going to jump onto kind of a carousel there in the middle. And I'll ride that around, and each one of these heads will go to the bottom of the bottle and fill it from the bottom up. It's 24 head filler, so at max capacity it'll go through 150 cases of beer in an hour. So quite a bit of beer, pretty efficient. This part right here will cap it right afterwards. It'll come down the end here. Usually we don't have the buckets, of course, when we're bottling. But at the end of the line is where we are going to put them into cases and 6-packs and get them ready for distribution. So you can see we'll preload just pallets full of beer cases ready to go, so we can just toss them in there. All done by hand. So usually it's just one guy at the end there going through 150 cases of beer in an hour. So
That's a tough job.
you got to move quick. So I know I've put some videos up of somebody just like going just like a machine. So last thing in this area though, this is our grain mill. So we will either have some of basically like carry just giant bags of malt up there, load them up there, weigh them up to get a recipe right. Then it'll get crushed up and augered, and that sends it through that white tube up to the front to the mash tun. So technically this is where the beer making process starts for us, is of course measuring out those malts and getting ready to go.
And so how often we get this stuff up and running and they keep up with demand?
Depends on, like, if we're rolling out a seasonal or something, you know what I mean, and gotta do a lot, do like 3 or 4 times a week. Really kind of depends on where we're at, of course. You run into some logistical bottlenecks and things like that. 3 to 4 times a week for the bottling line. Everything else, it really kind of depends on tank availability, what kind of they're trying to make. Of course, they do share tanks with the distillery, which I'll kind of get to here in a minute. But yeah, so they stay real busy.
It sounds like it is. It sounds like it's just constantly moving.
And like I said, there's only really like 3 or 4 guys who work on production, and they do it all. So that's everything from, you know, of course, brewing to bottling to recipe inspiration to, you know, everything down to cleaning, sanitizing, every little connecting piece they gotta make sure is clean and ready to go. On to, you know, minor repairs of the bottling line or something. They do it all. So
that's awesome. My hat's off to them. That sounds like a really almost like you're physically fit idiot.
That is for sure. That is for sure. And then the business side of things too. You know, of course, sales and marketing and all that type of stuff. So they wear a lot of hats and they do it really well. So, all right. So this looks familiar, but this is where we start distilling, actually. So distilling depends on what kind of spirit you're making, of course. You know, whiskey, for example, is kind of our big thing. We use a single malted barley, put it in the mash tun, boil that up, take it, and we'll put it in the fermenters. So skipping over the brew kettle because you don't want to add hops to vodka or whiskey. Yeah, no thanks. You know, ferments in there in the same exact fermenters as the brewery. Typically not going to be in one of the full-size fermenters. Usually when we're doing spirits, it's going to be in one of the 50s. But I have seen batches of whiskey that big before. You take it through the fence. Oh, I appreciate that. I'll catch it later. Yeah, so it's a 50 fermenter. But it'll ferment, and then we'll take it over to our stills. Our stills are they're really important to us. They come to us from Roth, Scotland. They're made by the Forsyth Group over there, very well known for their still making. You'll notice, and maybe you can see on camera, I don't know or not, if you look kind of close, you'll kind of see bumps and dimples and imperfections. Honestly, on either one of these stills, that's because these were hammered out by hand.
Oh, geez.
So yeah, custom made. Usually, yeah. Really, I mean, but it's important. Another kind of cool detail on these, over in Scotland, each kind of like still maker will have their own kind of signature shape to the barrel or to the still, as well as like that bulb there will appear on different heights on there, and that's almost like their calling card. So people in Scotland could look at it and go, "Oh, that's a Forsyth," just by like the shape of it, which is kind of fun. Also, you notice copper. A lot of the piping is copper as well.
Yeah.
Copper's going to pull out, and rather things like iron and sulfur, it's going to pull those out. It's going to pull those into kind of impurities, is how you want to look at it. Makes your spirit a lot cleaner at the end. Look in there too. Kind of ferment, or you'll distill it. That copper quill on the inside is going to heat it up, get it ready to boil. Spirits, or alcohol, I should say, has a lower boiling point than water. So you get it higher than the boiling point for alcohol, but less than water, so that alcohol vapor will boil and rise. Condense it, and then, so it'll run through the first still. You'll notice it'll pipe its way through. Good, because it'll repeat that process.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Vodka will also run through this. This is unique to us. This is a distillation column. It's got 21 copper plates in there. So each one kind of repeats the distilling process in that. Makes a really smooth vodka when we're done with it, running it through that many times. Really does a number on it. And then in here is the spirit safe, which is where we're going to make our cuts. So this right here is a proofing machine. To do what we do in there is we're going to blend our batch of spirits with water from the Sand Hills. There's a natural spring in Oshkosh, Nebraska that we get our water source. And then we're gonna mix that with our spirits to get it to an even level of alcohol by volume throughout the batch of spirits, so that we can sell it. And using that water source, of course, makes a big difference instead of just, like local tap water or something. Makes a big difference in flavor. Over here is the bottling line for the distillery. So this is all, of course, done by hand. You stick your bottle into that, open it up, let it flow up. That cube there has a batch of spirits in it, of course, so it's gravity fed into it. So yeah, that's a lot of work by hand too. It's loading that up. So this is kind of like more of a basic barrel. Missouri white oak, number 4 char on the inside. Very high amount of char in there. Our whiskey sits in that for 2 years before we pull it out, proof it, and bottle it. So that's kind of, like I said, a basic one. Over here, you'll notice those ones with the nice maple leaf on there. Those actually used to house maple syrup. So we made a batch of whiskey, aged in that for a while. These ones here, where we barrel aged our rum. This one's a fun project we're working on. It's not ready yet, but that's going to be a peated whiskey that we're working on in there. So it's you use peat moss to smoke the malts, so it gives it's a very traditional, like, Scottish style whiskey. Kind of matches our stills, of course, there too. We've never made one, so we're really excited about that. So yeah, very traditional style. So it's kind of a polarizing type of spirit, actually, but a lot of people like it. Your higher rated scotches and stuff are peated scotches. That one with the grapes, that's port, or no, that's Cabernet. So we made a batch of whiskey and finished it in Cabernet barrels. These ones with the skulls on it. So remember I talked about Wicked Joe. Made whiskey, pulled it out, put the Certified Evil in it, pulled the beer out, and then put the whiskey back in it. So it's getting some nice fun malt flavors to it in there, some fun color to it. So yeah, that's a fun creative type of thing we got going on there. I think those are all the variants that I can see here. Oh, there's a port barrel over here. We just released that one like yesterday. Yeah, that's a port barrel up there that we're finishing up a batch of spirits or a batch of whiskey. So, a bunch of fun cut aside projects.
There's definitely diversity.
Well, and really we released our first batch of whiskey. It won an award at the San Francisco International Spirits Fair, and then we kept selling out of it anytime we released a batch. Now we've finally been able to meet up with demand, which is letting us do some fun creative stuff like that. So,
thank you. And so this is Beluba Blueberry Blonde?
Correct.
Oh, that smells amazing. Oh, that's really good. It's just a little bit sour.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's a great flavor. Real smooth.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little bit of sweetness from the blueberries. I've noticed there's a lot of sour fruiteds out there. And there's not necessarily a lot that balances sweet and the sour.
Mm-hmm. And that makes it a little bit more refreshing to me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But
this is really good. You guys should try it.
Appreciate that.
If you still have energy after the brewery tour, try a game of darts. Or perhaps cornhole. Or check out these classic arcade games. Looking for a real challenge? Try this game, made from the slats of aging barrels. Alright, I gotta get back on the road, but I had a great time at Lucky Bucket Brewing Company. Big thank you to Sky for showing me around. Really appreciate it. Until next time, this is the Malted Gentleman reminding you, you only have one liver, so use it wisely.